All right, so look, me personally, like what I like to read, I like to read. We already had this conversation too, but I'm gonna say it again. I like to read realistic books, you know, stuff that I can relate to. I relate to like books that like urban novels, you know.
So it's like people that have the same experience as you, not just necessarily like someone that's as young as you.
Yeah,
Old as you.
yeah. Like it ain't really about the age. It's just like coming from where I'm coming from and them coming from where they come from. It's like similar in some type of way, if that makes sense.
Do you think if you read an urban novel that took place in like London, that it would feel the same or different?
I mean, I feel like it'll be the same, just different lingo.
I don't, and that makes good sense. So then I have a question for you. What are some of the characteristics that are like the feelings or the even like physical things that are present in like an urban neighborhood? Like what are those familiar things or attributes?
Corners, like what's in a urban neighborhood?
Yeah, like what are those
Like
things?
corner stores, stuff like that. Or like
Yeah, like Arab stores. Well, for me,
Yeah.
like
smoke
really,
shops.
just like poverty.
Is anybody in this room like from Cedar Rapids? That's interesting. So you're from here. Is anybody else from here?
Yes, like I'm from here in St. Louis. I move back and forth. Yeah.
Okay. Anybody, where are you from? Ish, or like where are places you live?
I live mostly in Chicago. I lived in St. Paul, Minnesota. I lived out here in Iowa City. I lived in Iowa City for a little bit, Corville, and that's pretty much it. Yeah.
They're pretty interesting. That's quite a few places. What about, how many places did you live?
Iowa City.
Iowa City, okay. And Cedar Rapids and St. Louis, you said? Yeah. What about you? Cedar Rapids. Okay. So I just find that really interesting. I don't know why. What was St. Paul like in comparison to big Chicago?
It was real racist out there. So we ain't stay for long. We probably only out there for like 4 or 5 months.
Okay. If you feel comfortable, do you have any examples that you'd be willing to share? Like that's terrible.
Like,
I'm interested. Like what?
Like when we was in public and stuff, like it'd be weird because like we'd be walking, you know, minding our business, but they're like white people would be looking at us like we don't belong there, you know.
That's terrible.
And like my mom, she was walking to the store, like these white people in this truck was like kind of harassing her, you know, like kept like riding past my mom and like yelling stuff like you don't belong here and playing crazy with my mom. I was young, I was in the crib, but that's what she told me. And after that, she pretty much wanted to get out of that state, you know.
Understandably. I mean, that's your place to like.
And like we couldn't really have friends neither, cause like where we was at, it was like a lot of white people, and like the white kids was curious of us, you know, cause they not used to black people. So we would hang out with them for a couple of days, and then their parents would be like, tell them to tell us that they can't be around us no more, you know, like they can't hang out with us, they can't play with us no more. So we spend most of our time in the house.
Some of our new friends, does anybody want to tell me, or the group, like what kind of books do you like to read? Do you read? Are you readers?
Yeah, we're all readers.
Well, I mean, you gotta read some to get by.
I mean,
And you want to go into a reader?
reading's a big word.
Like what defines a reader? Like what's reading?
Well, reading falls under, a big category because like you could read a book, but you can also read like facial expressions. You can just read whatever you do. It's like thinking is reading. So like let's say like yeah, like looking at like a stoplight or whatever. Like red, you got to read the color. Like you got to think it, which your brain's reading and going over it. Red means stop. Yellow means yield. Green means go. But that's a different depth of reading. But like reading, like it's just reading.
Well, I think that something that you really hit upon is, at its most basic form, reading words is reading symbols, right? Because you have to identify what a letter is in order to know what sound it makes and in what combination to create a word.
And that's where this book will come in. How the brain works.
Does that look like it? Kind of.
Fantabulous.
Good. So what I think is really interesting too, like there's a big debate sometimes, like when it comes to reading. So when you said like you read a stop sign, it's red, you know stop. So here's a question: if somebody's signing to you in American Sign Language, are you reading what someone signs to you?
Yeah, because you gotta read something. Like you read body language, like like you see the sign language, but you gotta be able to read the sign language.
It's interpreting the symbols.
Yeah.
Right? And like I don't know, I assume that being the young people that you are, there's a lot, like you do a lot of texting and things like that. And like, what's the difference between texting back and forth and like seeing somebody on Snapchat and a short video where you can see their face, hear their tone? So like my friends and I leave a lot of audio messages back and forth. Hearing my best friend's voice every day is incredible.
It's way better than set something.
Like, this is a big debate, especially with kids, juvenile, and young adult books. Like, those are like the three big kind of categories, like early chapter books, and then young adult books. So my question is, do audiobooks count as reading?
No,
No.
No, it does not.
no,
Yes.
No.
it absolutely does not.
They absolutely do.
The same as reading a book, or is it reading?
I don't think audiobooks count as reading because when you think about it, you basically listening to somebody read to you. And what that means, it's basically like saying like when I go to sleep and my mama read me a story, it's like am I reading? No, it's just me listening to my mom read. So it's not you reading, it's somebody else reading.
Exactly.
And what you doing is listening, you're not reading. And I think reading is like something that has to do with your eyes or like
Correct.
or like you recognizing something and you feel me? That's reading. But reading and listening is two different things.
So what I think is interesting is it sounds like the definition of reading is eyeballs to brain, like reading those symbols and interpreting them in your head.
Correct.
So then here's my next question. What effect does reading have on all y'all?
Can I share?
Yeah, go ahead. What effect does reading have on
So when I read, I noticed that like my mind. You listening?
I am. Your mind.
When I read, I notice that my mind creates a picture of what I'm reading.
It creates an image. Like you start to imagine things because of the details.
You
that's
get to
in the book.
like with the characters, you get like a idea of what you might think they look like.
Facts.
And like this, like the situations they in, you get an idea of what it might look like. If that makes sense.
It makes sense, folks. It makes sense. Anybody
All
who
right,
don't
sir.
get that's tweaking.
Chill.
So then I have another question for you. When you listen to an audio book, do you get the same thing that happens when you read
It depends.
that picture, that place?
It depends, but yeah, you could.
I say you can get an even better picture sometimes.
Okay. So I think when you reading, you can like instead of a picture book, you can make your own like thoughts, or you can imagine what you want or what you want a picture to look like.
That's what I was saying, sir.
So then, I think, this is my question then, like, if reading is like your brain and like the neuroscience part, right? Reading symbols and stuff. Like, but what I feel like I hear is that audiobooks can also like put you in a place and let you imagine,
Yeah.
right? So what's different? Why aren't they the same?
Like
What's,
reading, I mean, I was taught by my first grade teacher that reading is when you like look over words and like this say super tips. Like,
yeah.
I just read.
Uh-huh.
Like I just read something, that's reading. But like
So
actually like listening to something I've been taught reading and listening to super.
So you're saying,
I think what you're saying right now is really important. So here.
Thank
Wait.
you. I appreciate
I. So I said, wait, what's your question for?
I liked how you discussed like what your first grade teacher.
Oh, yeah. All right, so I said my first grade teacher taught me that reading is like reading over words. So I'm looking at this little marker thing and it says super tips. I just read. And reading, I mean, I've always been taught that reading and listening is two different things. So it's kind of hard for me to put those two together when, I've never really done that.
Okay,
Like
I think that you all did
reading.
a really good job of defining the difference between like reading a book or reading something and like what-
Listening.
In an audiobook, that's like a deaf person listening to a movie. Like, that's not the same thing as reading. You know what I'm saying?
A movie. And
Yeah,
That's-
Wait.
I understand. Yeah, completely.
So is
But yeah.
You want the mic?
Braille- is reading Braille still reading?
Yes.
Yeah, tell me you're feeling it.
Yeah, actually, technically, yeah, it's touch.
Wait,
So-
reading what?
I always still consider it
Braille, so I'm
reading,
just saying, so like you're not seeing it.
Right.
You can't see, but it's,
but that's how blind people see. That's like, that's.
I know, I was just posing the question.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's just
yeah.
how blind
people
I mean,
see.
blind
How
people
smart
read.
It's reading.
Blind
It's reading.
people read, I apologize.
Yeah. It's reading.
Well, but I think this is perfect, this discussion though, because like it really opens up like different experiences and how people get their information. Whether it's reading or like reading, right?
Mhm.
So something that I think is also interesting is like, what about this? Does reading make you like a smart person?
No.
Yes.
Technically, it educates you more. So, in a way, yes. It depends on what you're reading too.
So I like that. It's true. I think it does open things up quite a bit. Would everybody agree that like?
I think that reading gives you a different perspective in life, because when you read in somebody else's life. And now when you go outside and you walk around, now you might not even look at life the same way no more just because you read that certain book. That's what I think.
Yeah, and I'm pretty confident that anybody that reads a book has a better understanding on different things.
Yeah.
Like completely. Like if like the books I read by K1, like after I read his books, I just be sitting there like processing everything that I just read,
Exactly.
and I just got a different perspective on
Exactly.
life. And like
Exactly.
it's a book by who Tukey Williams is, the dude that created Crip. He got a book and it's in here, and I read it, and it's about like his stay in prison, and it gave me a whole different perspective on my life. You said, how's that?
Yeah.
Because like he was just going through like everything that happens in prison, and like me reading it, like all of the strip searching and the lockdowns.
You think it
I
taught you
just
something,
couldn't.
Fo?
Yeah, like it taught me a lesson. Really, like I just
Right.
look at life differently now, because like that's not somewhere I want to be.
Yeah.
Not saying that I'm scared. It ain't got nothing to do with fear. It's just looking
You
at
just
what's
gotta
best
do-
for me,
Exactly.
And that wouldn't be what's best for me, because me, like I'm a real, like I'm vocal when it comes to how I feel.
Yeah.
And in prison, it ain't gonna work like that. But that's just the type of person I am. So
That's
I'm
how
trying
I feel
to.
too. I feel like reading just gives you a whole new perspective. I don't think it makes you smarter in any way. I just feel like, I swear, I don't think it makes you smarter. It just gives you a new perspective in life. Now you can look at things
basically,
differently.
When you
Like,
read,
Fo,
you find out new words, correct?
check it out. I mean, like you could learn new words, yeah, but like,
That's making you
Gaining
smarter.
yourself knowledge.
Exactly.
nah,
Say that again.
nah.
Here, and I think when you read, you're giving yourself knowledge.
Nah.
What I really appreciate is that I feel like in this conversation that we've talked a lot of, like, this is some pretty deep stuff, right? This is amazing. And I think that like the importance of interpreting symbols in your environment is reading, but also like the effect that reading has on you is separate from being able to read, right? And then the third thing is that like what makes you a knowledgeable person is not necessarily your SAT score or your ACT score or your Iowa test of basic skills score, right? It's about understanding the world, and there's no way that we can experience like multiple lives at once. I mean, you can have friends and you can,
Yeah.
you know,
I was just gonna say that, like reading a book is like having a friend. It's like having like, so if I read like 3 books, it's like I just had 3 friends because I just got 3 different perspectives on life. You feel me?
Hold
It's
on,
like
can
talking
I
to
say
3
something?
different people.
Back on what you were saying,
Yeah.
folks. All right, so listen to this. You ready? All right, so look. When you study, most of the time when you studying, you're reading, and that's making you smarter.
What you mean study?
Like studying for like a test or something. Like let's say you in school, right? And the teacher's giving y'all lessons and they telling you finna have to take
I ain't
a
gonna
test.
lie, folks, from the start, I ain't never studied a day in my life, folks. Last time I studied was like in 5th grade, folks. I ain't gonna lie.
It's also what you're reading, so if you're reading things that are like facts.
Yeah,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. So you do learn when you read. And I feel like every time you read, you learn something new.
Put that out there.
I think that's there's something different that you just experienced. And it could be either like the way somebody said something, or just because it's their perspective, or it is like a stone cold fact, right? What makes you smart? What makes you a reader? What makes all those things? Like, what about people who, like, we kind of talked about people that have, that are blind or have vision issues, right? Or that, are deaf and use sign language, things like that. Well, what about like if you have trouble reading? But this is like a real serious thing because this is the place I feel like, okay, my long story longer is like I used to be a children's librarian too, right? And so kids that have trouble, like it's like neurology, right? Where your eyes have trouble following the words. Like what happens is like there gets to be a point where it's too frustrating, too hard, or you can't like get it to work right, be successful in school, and then like it gets dropped because there's either not the support or because it just feels terrible, right? It just feels terrible. So like I think that using audiobooks are a really valid way of reading. And I don't know, what do you think? Does that change things now?
Yeah, she just changed my mind. I guess audiobooks is also another way of reading. Because now that she just explained that, it just helped me realize that it's more than one way to read. You don't gotta read just off the traditional way you could read, you know? Like it's not just scanning words, you could read off, you know. I hope I made sense. I don't know how else to explain it.
Sense of reading urban type books because I've been like through some of the stuff that they've been through. And when I read them type books, I feel like I can relate to like the main character because I can feel like they're like my friend or my homie or something like that because they think like me or act like me kind of in a certain type of way.
Yeah, it helps my time go by faster and also keeps me occupied and not lose my mind. You feel me?
Keeps us sane.
Talking to people.
Thank you guys. That was amazing.